Back when I worked in San Francisco, I used to occasionally take the Muni, which is San Francisco's city light rail system. The Muni is a rather famously awful system. But what bothered me even more than the fact that you could wait 20 minutes for a train that was scheduled to come every 10 minutes was the recorded announcements you would hear in the downtown stations. I recall, more times than I can count, hearing the artificial voice say, "2-car, in 3 minutes." That meant that a train for the in line along Judah Street was coming in 3 minutes, and it had 2 cars. In contrast, the voice might announce 1 car, R, in 3 minutes. So I eventually figured out that this must be a software glitch. Of course, there was no reason to say in twice, but apparently the software said it twice when there were 2 cars. If there were 1 or 3 cars, it only said the line name once. This went on for many years. I kept asking other commuters about it. Most people told me they had never noticed it and then politely excused themselves. Maybe that's part of the problem with being a software programmer. I pretty much live in debugging mode. Bugs really annoy programmers, particularly stupid bugs that should be easy to fix. I believe that particular bug was finally eradicated, but it demonstrates just how extra annoying software issues can be when they start getting applied to mass transportation.
Heather thinks about software.
Recently, there's been a kerfuffle in the news about the Waymo taxis. Now, I'm not talking about the larger question of whether the taxis are safe or desirable. People in San Francisco seem to be split between those who love them and those who hate them, and neither group seems entirely rational about the question. Every time one gets into an accident, it seems to be big news. Of course, it's not big news when human drivers get into accidents, which they do all the time. San Francisco is rather famously anti-tech, while at the same time trying to attract tech businesses for the city for tax revenue purposes, and has had some famous dust-ups about Google buses and whatnot. I mean, after all, it's deeply thoughtless for a big company to provide bus transportation to its employees instead of making them drive in private cars. The city by the bay is always sending mixed messages like this. Recently, there was a new controversy over the honking of the Waymo taxis. This is exactly the kind of kerfuffle the news media loves, so it became an international news item. Waymo taxis apparently gather at night in a parking lot in San Francisco at 2nd and Harrison Street. For those of you who don't know San Francisco, this is an area that is rather grim and dominated by the Interstate 80 on-ramp, but because it's San Francisco after all, it is home to some pricey condos and apartments. The neighbors complained that they were being awoken in the middle of the night by Waymo taxis honking. It then emerged that this was due to a software glitch, or maybe a feature. Waymo taxis are programmed to honk if another car gets too close. This is just like a human driver, at least a polite and attentive one, would do. A little toot to remind the other driver, saying, "Hey, I'm here, don't run into me." In the parking lot at night, many of the cars are very close to each other, so they were honking a lot. After a while, Waymo announced that it had fixed the problem. We recently introduced a useful feature to help avoid low-speed collisions by honking if other cars get too close while reversing toward us. It has been working great in the city, but we didn't quite anticipate it would happen so often in our own parking lots. We've updated the software, so our electric vehicles should keep the noise down for our neighbors moving forward. Note the reference to electric vehicles, which was undoubtedly added for a little PR spin to remind people that the cars are eco-friendly. One commentator thought it was not exactly a software change, saying, Waymo simply reconfigured the parking lot to have more space, only one column of cars in the center instead of 2, which dramatically reduces conflicts between vehicles by avoiding reversing completely for vehicles in the center and leaving more room for others to maneuver. In any event, there is now a live YouTube stream of the parking lot. I'll link to it in the comments, just in case you have nothing else to do. This stream was apparently created by one of the nearby residents who said, Waymo, quote, threw us an ice cream social to smooth things over. Is ice cream social some kind of inexplicable Gen Z slang, or does this literally mean the horrid little parties with punch and pie that churches used to organize when I was 12? I remember at the time complaining that social was not a noun. You may be noticing a pattern here. I can't help myself. However, local residents now report that the honking continues. Among the amusing comments on a YouTube video about it, one person remarked, "Where is law enforcement? Ticket each car each night and this will be over in 2 days." This is clearly not a person from San Francisco or anywhere in urban California. Where is law enforcement is a legitimate question for the Bay Area, but let's start with daylight robberies and drug dealing, public defecation, and sideshows, and then let's get to the tooting taxis. But the police are actually alive and well, and did file charges against a person who, unrelated to this honking, slashed the tires of 19 Waymo vehicles, including some that were occupied by riders at the time. The cars have cameras that caught the act, but it's unclear whether the police acted before or after Waymo brought a private lawsuit against the alleged tire slasher. Meanwhile, the culture and software war between autonomous vehicles and San Francisco continues in the press and popular attention, while the Waymo taxis are becoming ever more prevalent. This is certainly not the last software bug to become a media hot button.
Heather thinks about software.